Hey everyone, welcome back. So you've been digging into the world of sports, huh? Lots of interesting stuff in those notes you've got.
Yeah, it's a pretty fascinating journey, right? From those ancient games to, well, some pretty complicated issues we're seeing today in athletics.
Right. And you know me, I always like to start at the beginning. So did our ancestors really invent sports just for the fun of it? Or was there something, I don't know, a little more primal going on?
Well, your research points to a pretty strong link between early sports and, believe it or not, survival.
Survival. Really?
Yeah. Take, for instance, let me see. Yes, the Celtic Festival of Lughnasadh. Your notes mention javelin throwing, right?
They did.
So those javelin contests weren't just for sport. They were like a ritual, a way to guarantee a good harvest by, connecting that skill to survival.
Wow. So like those ancient athletes were multitasking,
Hmm.
hunting for dinner and winning medals.
Exactly. And it wasn't just javelin throwing. You've got all that great stuff on ancient Greece in your notes. The wrestling, for example, totally tied to combat training. Essential skills for warriors back then.
Right, like the original CrossFit or
Oh,
something. But that makes me wonder, when did we start caring about fairness in sports? Because, let's face it, life back then wasn't exactly a level playing field.
that is a great question. The idea of a level playing field as we know it, well, it kind of emerged over time. Your research really highlights this turning point in the late 19th, early 20th centuries. That's when we started to see standardized rules in a lot of sports.
Which makes sense. I mean, you can't exactly have a fair fight, so to speak, if everyone's playing by different rules,
Yeah.
right?
Exactly. And even the rules themselves had to evolve. Like your notes on boxing, for example,
Yeah.
the introduction of weight classes. That was huge. Changed the game in terms of fairness.
Oh, totally. And it wasn't just boxing. Think about standardized field sizes in football. It's wild to think that those weren't always the norm.
Right. And these changes weren't just about the games, they really started to reflect evolving societal values, like this growing emphasis on equal opportunity that was emerging.
You know, I'd never thought about it that way before. Why is fairness such a big deal in sports anyway? It's not like life is always fair, right?
That is a really interesting question. Maybe it's about having this space, where at least in theory, everyone plays by the same rules, everyone has a fair shot.
It makes you think about all the complexities surrounding trans athletes today, trying to find that balance between fairness and inclusivity. That's a tough one.
It really is. And your research, it dives right into those complexities. And there are no easy answers, right?
Mhm.
It's about considering different perspectives. Like some argue that using testosterone levels and just testosterone levels as the metric for fairness, well, it ignores the complexity of athletic
Well,
performance.
it's way more than just one factor.
Exactly. Your research even mentions how genetics, training, even things like nutrition, altitude, it can all have a huge impact.
It's mind-blowing when you really start to break it all down. And speaking of pushing boundaries, your notes on performance enhancement, those really stuck with me. It seems like the drive to get an edge, well, it's nothing new.
No, not at all. I mean, you've got examples in your research from ancient Greek athletes using herbal remedies to, well, modern day athletes exploring genetic enhancements. It's a constant throughout history.
It really makes you wonder, where do we even draw the line?
Yeah.
When does dedication become, well, cheating? And how can we even define that line as technology just keeps advancing?
It's a question that's going to keep challenging us. Your sources seem to suggest that maybe the key is to constantly reevaluate, right?
Yeah.
To keep reevaluating our definition of fair play in light of these new scientific advancements. And of course, alongside a deeper understanding of human potential.
From ancient rituals to, who knows, maybe gene editing someday. It seems like sports will always be pushing those boundaries. Makes you wonder what's next, doesn't it?